I know, he said, voice trembling, not from rage but from something worse, disappointment. His hands shook as he placed his phone on the table, screen glowing with messages I wished I could burn out of existence. How long, Emily? How long have you been lying to me? In that moment, I wished the floor would split open and swallow me whole. Welcome to Breakup Cheater, where real stories of love, betrayal, and redemption come to life. Today's story is a heartbreaking account of how one choice shattered a family, and the silent storm that followed. I met Daniel when I was 23, fresh out of college, full of naive dreams about love, stability, and forever. He was the kind of man women quietly hope for but rarely find. Steady, kind, with a laugh that made the world feel less heavy. We built a life together over 13 years. 2 kids, a little house with creaky floors, and a rhythm that was safe, predictable. And maybe that was where the seed was planted. The quiet monotony that I never spoke of, the way the years blurred into school drop-offs, bills, and bedtime routines. I told myself I was happy. Maybe I even was. Until he came along. Aaron was a coworker at the marketing firm I joined 3 years ago. Charismatic, effortless, always knowing the right thing to say. He noticed me, really noticed me, in a way I felt Daniel hadn't in years. One late night turned into 2, then lunches, then jokes that tiptoed over the line. And eventually, a kiss in the office parking lot after a team celebration. I remember going home that night and lying next to my husband, feeling like a stranger in my own skin. It wasn't a full-blown affair. At least, that's what I told myself at first. Just a series of moments, a secret language of glances and messages. But emotional betrayal has a way of growing teeth, and before long, the line I swore I wouldn't cross was miles behind me. And then the day came. I got home from work, still buzzing with the adrenaline of stolen time, only to find Daniel sitting at the kitchen table. The kids were at their friend's house. His phone was in his hand, face pale, jaw tight. "Emily," he said. "Can we talk?" The words every guilty spouse dreads. I didn't know how he found out. Maybe it was the late-night messages I forgot to delete. Maybe the coworker's wife, yes, Aaron was married, had discovered us first. All I knew was the way his eyes searched mine, desperate for a reason to believe the woman he loved wasn't the woman in those texts. "I read them," he whispered, holding the phone out like a piece of evidence too heavy to carry. "I thought maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe you were venting." But then I saw the hotel receipt. I felt my knees give out. The chair caught me before the floor did. "Daniel, I don't." His voice cracked. "Just tell me why." And I had no answer that could make it less cruel. The days that followed were a blur of quiet rooms and forced smiles for the kids. Daniel didn't scream, didn't throw things. He didn't call me names or demand explanations. Somehow that made it worse. He withdrew, slowly, deliberately. No more goodnight kisses, no more lazy Sunday breakfasts. Just polite exchanges and a chasm widening between us by the hour. 2 weeks later he served me divorce papers. "I can't do this," he said, standing by the window as the kids played in the yard, unaware their world was cracking. "I wanted to fight for us, Emily. But every time I look at you I see him. I see the lies. And I can't raise our kids in a house built on that. I'll end it with him," I pleaded, my voice breaking. "It's already over, I swear it meant nothing." His eyes met mine, full of a sadness that felt heavier than anger. It meant enough to throw us away. Telling the kids was the hardest part. They were 8 and 10, old enough to know something was wrong, too young to understand why their mother couldn't stop crying in the bathroom. Daniel wanted to be honest but not brutal. "We're going to live in 2 houses now," he said gently. "Sometimes you'll be with me, sometimes with Mom." "Why?" our daughter asked. "Did you stop loving each other?" I opened my mouth but the words stuck. Because how do you tell your children that the reason their father is moving out is because their mother betrayed him? How do you shatter their image of you and still tuck them into bed at night? So I said nothing. I let Daniel carry the weight of their questions while I drowned in my own shame. Weeks turned into months. Aaron tried to reach out. I ignored him. He was never going to leave his wife. Men like him rarely do. And even if he did, what future could come from something so rotten at its core? My nights became long and sleepless, my days mechanical. I went to work, smiled at the same coworkers who had whispered behind my back, and came home to a house that felt emptier than ever. Daniel, on the other hand, seemed lighter. Not happy exactly, but free. He threw himself into the kids' routines, started running again, even reconnected with old friends. The man I thought I had grown bored of was rediscovering himself, without me. The divorce was finalized quietly. No dramatic courtroom scenes, no screaming matches. Just a signature on paper and the end of a life I once believed would last forever. And yet, the worst part wasn't losing him. It was knowing why I lost him. Not because he stopped loving me, but because I stopped respecting what we had. One rainy night, about a year after he found out, Daniel came to drop the kids off after a weekend with him. They ran upstairs, chattering about a new movie they'd seen, leaving us alone in the hallway. He looked at me for a long moment. "You don't have to keep punishing yourself, Emily." "I'm not," I said, though my voice trembled. I don't know how to forgive myself." He sighed, slipping his hands into his pockets. "Neither do I. But I'm trying. For them." And then he left. Not with bitterness, not with love, just with a quiet finality that told me this chapter was over. Sometimes I wonder if I ruined my life over a few fleeting moments of feeling seen. If I had just spoken to Daniel, told him I felt invisible, maybe we'd still be together. Maybe we'd be stronger. But that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just break trust. It rewrites the past, taints the memories, turns the laughter into something hollow. Now, every time I look at my children, I see the question in their eyes they're too polite to ask. Why? And I don't have the courage to answer. Thank you for watching. What would you have done in Daniel's place? Should betrayal always mean the end? Or can some wounds truly heal? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful human stories like this one.